Hello, 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 and welcome to Story Time. I'm so glad that you're here. There are many things that I'm going to read today, and my skull is here with me as a reminder of the impermanence of all things. So, as if you needed a reminder, but a little reminder. So I'm going to start out, actually, as I usually do, with quotes or poems. And last week, in the previous weeks, reading some ghazals. And ghazals are a kind of Middle Eastern poetry, usually written in the Middle East and usually written in the Urdu language. And most of the poems that we hear now are English translations, and they're in free verse. They're not in rhymed form. But originally, ghazals were in rhymed form, and they are really powerful in the way that they're written in couplets. And the first couplet, the first two lines are rhymed, and then the following couplets, the last line is rhymed with the first two in the entire ghazal. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes there are really complex rhyming structures inside of ghazals, and those are fascinating. But there is a modern Kashmiri poet named Agha Shahid Ali, who writes ghazals in English. So we are not having to have free verse translations of them. These are the original language that the poem was written in. So I'm going to just do a little bit of adjustment here to make the microphone be a little bit closer to my face. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. Okay, thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay, good. And those of you who are not showing your faces, you don't have to do thumbs up. I got it. I got the information I needed. So, this is called Land by Agha Shahid Ali. Swear by the olive in the God-kissed land, there is no sugar in the promised land. Why must the bars turn neon now when love, I'm already drunk in your capitalist land. If home is found on both sides of the globe, home is of course here, and always a mist land. The hours come to redeem the pledge, not wholly. In fates long years ago we made a tryst land. Clearly these men were here only to destroy a mosque, now the dust of a prejudiced land. Will the doomsayers die, bitten with envy, when springtime returns to our dismissed land? The prisons fill with the cries of children. How then do you subsist? How do you persist, land? Is my love nothing, for I've borne no children? I'm with you, Sappho, in that anarchist land. A hurricane is born when the wings flutter. Where will the butterfly on my wrist land? You made me wait for one who wasn't even there, though summer had finished in that tourist land. So it's a fascinating form, isn't it? And the internally rhymed ones are really, really interesting as well. So here's another. Did you like Agha Shahid Ali? He's good, huh? So here's another poem. This is not in the ghazal format, but a really beautiful poem. It's called At the Museum. But in 2500 BC, Harappa, Who cast in bronze a servant girl? No one keeps records of soldiers and slaves. The sculptor knew this, polishing the ache off her fingers stiff from washing the walls and scrubbing the floors, from stirring the meat and the crushed asafoetida in the bitter gourd. But I'm grateful she smiled at the sculptor, as she smiles at me in bronze, a child who had to play woman to her lord when the warm June rains came to Harappa. So, Agha Shahid Ali, writing in the ghazal format in the modern world. Isn't that cool? I just love that. So we have our two main things, and I'm not going to read a whole lot from this book today, but this is, again, and you can tell it's a well-used book that I actually spent a pot on, so the pages are a little stiff, but they still work. This is a book called Trickster Makes This World by Lewis Hyde. And Lewis Hyde's sort of presupposition in this book is that the world as we know it would simply not exist were it not for the trickster. And there are many sort of amazing things about the trickster. And one of the amazing things is the trickster's sort of familiarity with dirt. And this is in a chapter called The Silence of Shame and Shameless Silence. And it's about how Trickster actually has no shame, right? And the chapter before this is about Maxine Hong Kingston's stories about Tipitaka, can't pronounce the name, god or goddess in China who traveled with Monkey, and so, our hero would constantly be in shame and be silenced by shame, but this is not something that happened to Monkey, who just would say anything to anyone. But this chapter is called Matter Out of Place, and it begins with Heaven's Privy. And it begins with once upon a time, so how could I resist? Once upon a time, the gods were closer to this earth. Once they walked among us and sat at our tables. But that was long ago. Long before the enduring divisions that shape this world were drawn. The Fawn in West Africa called the female portion of their androgynous creator Mawu. She is the mother of the trickster Legba. In ancient days, when Mawu lived here on earth, Legba was her obedient servant. When he did a good deed, the people ignored him and thanked Mawu. But when he did an evil deed, the people blamed him directly, as if Mawu had nothing to do with it. Legba complained of this arrangement. Mawu replied that in governing the world, it is best if the master be known as good and the servants be known as evil. Very well, said Legba. And that's not the end of it, right? Now, Mawu had a yam garden, and Legba told her that thieves were planning to steal her crop. So, Mawu assembled all the people and announced that anyone who stole from her garden would be put to death. That night, Legba stole Mawu's sandals, and wearing them on his feet, stole all her yams. When the theft was discovered, Mawu assembled the people and searched to find a foot that matched the footprints in her garden. When none could be found, Legba asked if Mawu herself might have come in the night and forgotten about it. Who, me? That is why I do not like you, Legba. I will measure my foot with that footprint. When Mawu put her foot down, well, you guessed it, it fit the print exactly. The people began to laugh and shout, "The owner herself is a thief!" Mawu was humiliated. She left the earth. She didn't go very far, though, only about 10 feet up. And Legba was still her servant. Every evening he would come to her and give an account of the day's activity and receive his instructions for the day that followed. And again, whenever Legba did something wrong, the people would blame him, and Mawu herself would join in the reproach. Irritated, Legba conspired with an old woman. Every evening after she had washed her dishes, this old woman would throw the dirty dishwater up into the air and soak Mawu with it. Angered, Mawu soon departed. Now she lives on high, and Legba, her son, lives here on this earth. The detail that interests me here is that the dirty dishwater at the very end. But before I can explain what draws me to it, I need to give some sense of how I read its context. At the beginning of the story, Legba is differentiated from his mother on her terms, not on his own. And that irritates him. If he is really her obedient servant, executing her will without fail, then she should at least acknowledge that his actions, both good and bad, are her actions. In the little drama that Legba engineers, that might mean acknowledging that the owner of the yams really is the thief, which seems like a lie, but if the mother rules the son, then it's a lie that tells the truth. Mawu wants to pick and choose, however. She wants to hide her own duality so that people will think she's good and never bad, high and never low. Legba's ruse forces her to come clean or dirty. She differentiate herself from him more fully or else confess their unity. She chooses to differentiate. She completes the separation from her offspring, whereupon Legba is not quite so watched over and can himself become the ambivalent author of what humans take to be both good and evil. But Mawu doesn't retreat right away. She's the kind of mother who hopes to back off just 5 or 10 feet. Perhaps her son would like a basement room with his own refrigerator. Legba deals with this inadequate distance by forcing his mother to face up to one final ambivalence. Is she clean or dirty or some primordial combination of the two? If Mawu made this world, then the dirt in the dishwater is part of her, or rather it once was. This story is a later chapter in an unfolding creation, marking the moment when the pure and the impure, the clean and the dirty, the immaculate and the pied are separated into categories and a line drawn between them. On Legba's earth, there is still a great confusion of the dirty and clean, and we must wash dishes all the time. But no one washes dishes in heaven. There's no dirt up there, and Mawu can keep her purity intact. More to come. Isn't that interesting? Trickster does make this world, right? So, as you'll remember, and I actually a little bit dread this, because now we're coming to Earth. You know, the little prince has left his beautiful Rose, who was a little bit of a pouty Rose and a little bit, you know, kind of passive-aggressive, but his Rose and his Rose alone, and he loved her, and he didn't realize how much he loved her until he left, and he'd found all these strange adults on these strange planets, and they'd done things and said things that he didn't quite understand, but finally he comes to the Earth. So this is chapter 16. So then, the 7th planet was the Earth. The Earth is not just an ordinary planet. One can count there 111 kings, not forgetting to be sure the African kings among them, 7,000 geographers, 900,000 businessmen, 7,500,000 tipplers, 311 million conceited men, that is to say about 2 billion grown-ups, and of course since the writing of this book it's changed to about 8 billion, right? To give you an idea of the size of the earth, I will tell you that before the invention of electricity it was necessary to maintain over the whole of the 6 continents a veritable army of 462,511 lamplighters for the street lamps. Seen from that distance, it would make a splendid spectacle. The movements of this army would be regulated like those of the ballet in the opera. First would come the turn of the lamplighters in New Zealand and Australia. Having set their lamps alight, they would go off to sleep. Next, the lamplighters of China and Siberia would enter for their steps in the dance, and then they too would be waved back into the wings. After that would come the turn of the lamplighters of Russia and the Indies, then those of Africa and Europe, and those of South America, and those of North America, and never would they make a mistake in the order of their entry upon the stage. It would be magnificent. Only the man who was in charge of the single lamp at the North Pole and his colleague who was responsible for the single lamp at the South Pole, only these two would live free from toil and care. They would be busy twice a year. And I believe that's the whole of chapter 16. Indeed it is. Chapter 17. When one wishes to play the wit, he sometimes wanders a little from the truth. I have not been altogether honest in what I have told you about the lamplighters, and I realize that I run the risk of giving a false idea of our planet to those who do not know it. Men occupy a very small place upon the earth. If the 2 billion inhabitants who people its surface were to all stand upright and somewhat crowded together, as they do for some big public assembly, which we're not having anymore, they could easily be put into one public square 20 miles long and 20 miles wide. All humanity could be piled up on a small Pacific islet. The grown-ups, to be sure, will not believe you when you tell them that. They imagine that they fill a great deal of space. They fancy themselves as important as baobabs. You should advise them, then, to make their own calculations. They adore figures, and that will please them. But do not waste your time on this extra task. It is unnecessary. You have, I know, confidence in me. When the little prince arrived on the earth, he was very much surprised not to see any people. He was beginning to be afraid he had come to the wrong planet, when a coil of gold, the color of the moonlight, flashed across the sand. "Good evening," said the little prince courteously. "Good evening," said the snake. "What planet is this on which I've now come down?" asked the little prince. "This is the earth. This is Africa," the snake answered. "Ah, then there are no people on the earth." "This is the desert. There are no people in the desert. The earth is large," said the snake. The little prince sat down on a stone and raised his eyes toward the sky. "I wonder," he said, "whether the stars are set alight in heaven so that one day each of one of us may find our own again. Look at my planet. It's right there above us, but how far away it is." "It is beautiful," the snake said. "What has brought you here?" "I've been having some trouble with a flower, said the little prince. Ah, said the snake. And they were both silent. Where are the men? The little prince at last took up the conversation again. It's a little lonely in the desert. It's also lonely among men, the snake said. The little prince gazed at him for a long time. You are a funny animal, he said at last. You are no thicker than a finger. But I am more powerful than the finger of a king, said the snake. The little prince smiled. You're not very powerful. You haven't even any feet. You cannot even travel. I can carry you further than any ship could take you, said the snake. He twined himself around the little prince's ankle like a golden bracelet. Whomever I touch, I send back to the earth from whence he came. The snake spoke again. But you are innocent and true, and you come from a star. The prince made no reply. You move me to pity. You are so weak on this earth made of granite, the snake said. I can help you someday. If you grow too homesick for your own planet, I can... Oh, I understand you very well, said the little prince. But why do you always speak in riddles? I solve all of them, said the snake. And they were both silent. Chapter 18. The little prince crossed the desert and met with only one flower. It was a flower with 3 petals, a flower of no account at all. Good morning, said the little prince. Good morning, said the flower. Where are the men? The little prince asked politely. The flower had once seen a caravan passing. Men? She echoed. I think there are 6 or 7 of them in existence. I saw them several years ago, but one never knows where to find them. The wind blows them away. They have no roots. That's what makes their lives very difficult. Goodbye, said the little prince. Goodbye, said the flower. Chapter 19. After that, the prince climbed a high mountain. The only mountains he had ever known were the 3 volcanoes which came up to his knees, and he used the extinct volcano as a footstool. From a mountain as high as this one, he said to himself, I shall be able to see the whole planet at once, and all the people. But he saw nothing, save peaks of rock that were sharpened like needles. Good morning, he said courteously. Good morning, good morning, good morning, answered the echo. Who are you? Asked the little prince. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Answered the echo. Be my friends. I'm all alone, he said. I'm all alone, all alone, all alone, answered the echo. What a queer planet, he thought. It's altogether dry, altogether pointed, and altogether harsh and forbidding, and the people have no imagination. They repeat whatever one says to them. On my planet I had a flower. She was always the first to speak. Chapter 20. But it happened that after walking for a long time through sand and rocks and snow, the little prince at last came upon a road. And all roads lead to the abodes of men. Good morning, he said. He was standing before a garden, all abloom with roses. Good morning, said the roses. The little prince gazed at them. They all looked like his flower. Who are you? He demanded, thunderstruck. We are roses, the roses said, and he was overcome with sadness. His flower had told him she was the only one of her kind in the universe. And here were 5,000 of them, all alike, in one single garden. She would be very annoyed, he said to himself, if she should see that. And she would cough most dreadfully, and she would pretend that she was dying to avoid being laughed at, and I should be obliged to pretend that I was nursing her back to life, for if I did not do that, to humble myself also, she would really allow herself to die. Then he went on with his reflections. I thought that I was rich with a flower that was unique in the world, and all I had was a common rose and 3 volcanoes that came up to my knees, and one of them perhaps extinct forever. That doesn't make me a very great prince. And he lay down in the grass and cried. It was then that the fox appeared. Good morning, said the fox. Good morning, said the little prince politely, although when he turned around he saw nothing. I'm right here, the voice said, under the apple tree. Who are you? Asked the little prince, and added, You're very pretty to look at. I'm a fox, said the fox. Come play with me, proposed the little prince. I'm so unhappy. I cannot play with you, said the fox. I am not tamed. Please excuse me, said the little prince. But after some thought he said, What does that mean, tame? You do not live here, said the fox. What is it that you're looking for? I'm looking for men, said the little prince. What does that mean, tame? Men, said the fox. They have guns and they hunt. It's very disturbing. And they also raise chickens. These are their only interests. Are you looking for chickens? No, said the little prince. I'm looking for friends. What does that mean, tame? It's an act too often neglected, said the fox. It means to establish ties. To establish ties? Just that, said the fox. To me, you are nothing more than a little boy who is just like 100,000 other little boys, and I have no need of you. And you, on your part, have no need of me. To you, I am nothing more than a fox like 100,000 other foxes. But if you tame me, then we shall need each other. To me, you will be unique in all the world. To you, I shall be unique in all the world. I'm beginning to understand, said the little prince. There's a flower. I think she has tamed me. It is possible, said the fox. On the earth one sees all sorts of things. Oh, but this is not on the earth, said the little prince. The fox seemed perplexed. Hang on 1 second, because I'm going to just... There's a little bit of sound coming through, and I'm just going to mute everybody so that... so that we can all hear. Oh, but this is not on the earth, said the little prince. The fox seemed very perplexed and curious. On another planet? Yes. Are there hunters on this planet? No. Ah, that is interesting. Are there chickens? No. Nothing is perfect, sighed the fox. But he came back to the idea. My life is very monotonous, said the fox. I hunt chickens, men hunt me, all the chickens are just alike, and all the men are just alike. And in consequence, I am a little bored. But if you tame me, it will be as if the sun came to shine on my life. I shall know the sound of a step that will be different from all the others. Other steps send me hurrying backwards underneath the ground. Yours will call me, like music, out of my burrow. And then, look, you see the grain fields down yonder? I do not eat bread. Wheat is of no use to me. The wheat fields have nothing to say to me, and that is sad. But you have hair that is the color of gold. Think how wonderful that will be when you have tamed me. The grain, which is also golden, will bring me back the thought of you. and I shall love to listen to the wind and the wheat." The fox gazed at the little prince for a long time. "Please, tame me," he said. I want to very much," said the little prince, "but I have not much time. I have friends to discover. I have a great many things to understand." "One only understands the things that one tames," said the fox. "Men have no more time to understand anything. They buy things already made at the shops, but there's no shop anywhere where one can buy friendship. So men have no friends anymore. If you want a friend, tame me." "What must I do to tame you?" asked the little prince. "You must be very patient," replied the fox. "First, you will sit down at a little distance from me, like that, in the grass. I shall look at you out of the corner of my eye, and you will say nothing. I shall look at you out of the corner of my eye, and you will say nothing. Words are the source of misunderstandings, but you will sit a little closer to me every day." The next day the prince came back. "It would be better to come back at the same hour," said the fox. For example, if you come at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, then at 3 o'clock I shall begin to be happy. I shall feel happier and happier as the hour advances. At 4 o'clock I shall already be worrying and jumping about. I shall know how happy I am. But if you come at just any time, I shall never know at what hour my heart is to be ready to greet you. One must observe the proper rites." "What is a rite?" asked the little prince. "Those are actions too often neglected," said the fox. "They are what make one day different from other days, one hour from other hours. There is a rite, for example, among my hunters. Every Thursday they dance with the village girls. So Thursday is a wonderful day for me. I can take a walk as far as the vineyards, but if the hunters danced at just any time, every day would be a day like every other day, and I should never have any vacation at all." So the little prince tamed the fox. And when the hour of his departure drew near, "Ah," said the fox, "I shall cry." "It is your own fault," said the little prince. "I never wished you any sort of harm, but you wanted me to tame you." "Yes, that is so," said the fox. "But now you're going to cry," said the little prince. "Yes, that is so," said the fox. "Then it has done you no good at all." "It has done me good," said the fox, "because of the color of the wheat fields." And then he added, "Go and look again at the roses. You will understand now that yours is unique in all the world. Then come back to say goodbye to me, and I will make you a present of a secret." The little prince went away to look at the roses. "You're not at all like my rose," he said. "As yet you are nothing. No one has tamed you, and you have tamed no one. You are like my fox when I first knew him. He was only a fox like 100,000 other foxes, but I've made him my friend, and now he is unique in all the world." And the roses were very much embarrassed. "You are beautiful, but you're empty," he went on. "One could not die for you. To be sure, an ordinary passer-by would think that my rose looked just like you, the rose that belongs to me. But in herself alone, she is more important than all the hundreds of you other roses, because it is she that I have watered, because it is she that I have put under the globe, because it is she I have sheltered behind the screen, because it is for her that I have killed the caterpillars, except for the 2 or 3 that we save to become butterflies. Because it is she that I have listened to when she grumbled or boasted, or even sometimes when she said nothing, because she is my rose." And he went back to meet the fox. "Goodbye," he said. "Goodbye," said the fox. "And now here is my secret. A very simple secret. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." "What is essential is invisible to the eye," the little prince repeated, so that he would be sure to remember. "It is the time you have wasted for your rose that makes your rose so important." "It is the time I have wasted for my rose," said the little prince, so that he would be sure to remember. "Men have forgotten this truth," said the fox, "but you must never forget it. You become responsible forever for what you have tamed. You are responsible for your rose." "I am responsible for my rose," the little prince repeated, so that he would be sure to remember. "Good morning," said the little prince. This is chapter 22. "Good morning," said the railway switchman. "What do you do here?" the little prince asked. "I sort out travelers in bundles of 1,000, said the switchman. "I send off the trains that carry them, now to the right, now to the left." And a brightly lighted express train shook the switchman's cabinet as it rushed by with a roar like thunder. "They are in a great hurry," said the little prince. "What are they looking for?" "Not even the locomotive engineer knows that," said the switchman. And a second brilliantly lighted express thundered by in the opposite direction. "Are they coming back already?" demanded the little prince. "These are not the same ones," said the switchman. "It is an exchange." "Were they not satisfied with where they were?" asked the little prince. "No one is ever satisfied where he is," said the switchman. And they heard the roaring thunder of a third brilliantly lighted express. "Are they pursuing the first travelers?" demanded the little prince. "They are pursuing nothing at all," said the switchman. "They are asleep in there, or if they're not asleep, they're yawning. Only the children are flattening their noses against the window panes." "Only the children know what they're looking for," said the little prince. "They waste their time over a rag doll, and it becomes important to them. And if anyone ever takes it away from them, they cry." They are lucky, said the switchman. Chapter 23. "Good morning," said the little prince. "Good morning," said the merchant. This was a merchant who sold pills that had been invented to quench thirst. You only needed to swallow 1 pill a week, and you would feel no need of anything to drink. "Why are you selling those?" asked the little prince. "Because they save a tremendous amount of time," said the merchant. "Computations have been made by experts. With these pills you save 53 minutes every week." "And what do I do with those 53 minutes?" "Anything you like." "As for me," said the little prince to himself, "if I had 53 minutes to spend as I liked, I should walk at my leisure toward a fresh spring of water." Chapter 24. We may not get to Nikos Kazantzakis if we want to finish. So here's my question. Give me a thumbs up if you want to finish the Little Prince today, or thumbs to the side if you want to stop here at chapter 24 and go to Nikos Kazantzakis. All right. Little Prince. All right, I'm just going to assume that the people on the without their oh, you know what? You could actually raise your hand if you wanted to, but I'm just going to say that since I got a couple of upvotes, I'm going to continue with the Little Prince because now it's starting to get good. I'm going to take a little sip of tea as well. And now, it was the 8th day since I had had my accident in the desert, and I had listened to the story of the merchant as I was drinking the last drop of my water supply. "Ah," I said to the Little Prince, "these memories of yours are very charming, but I have not yet succeeded in repairing my plane. I have nothing more to drink, and I too should be happy if I could walk at my leisure toward a fresh spring of water." "My friend the fox," the Little Prince said to me, My dear little man, this is no longer a matter that has anything to do with the fox. Why not? Because I'm about to die of thirst. He did not follow my reasoning, and he answered me. It's a good thing to have a friend, even if one is about to die. I, for instance, am very glad to have had a fox for a friend. He has no way of guessing the danger, I said to myself. He has never been either thirsty or hungry. A little sunshine is all he needs. But he looked at me steadily and replied to my thought. I am thirsty too. Let us look for a well. I made a gesture of weariness. It is absurd to look for a well at random in the immensity of the desert, but nevertheless we started walking. When we had trudged along for several hours in silence, the darkness fell and the stars began to come out. Thirst had made me a little feverish, and I looked at them as if I were in a dream. The little prince's last words came reeling back into my memory. Then you're thirsty too? I demanded. But he did not reply to my question. He merely said to me, Water may also be good for the heart. I did not understand this answer, but I said nothing. I knew very well that it was impossible to cross-examine him. He was tired. He sat down. I sat down beside him, and after a little silence he spoke again. The stars are beautiful because of a flower that cannot be seen. I replied, Yes, that is so. And without saying anything more, I looked across the ridges of sand that were stretched out before us in the moonlight. The desert is beautiful, said the little prince. And that was true. I have always loved the desert. One sits down on a desert and sand dune and sees nothing, hears nothing, yet through the silence something throbs and gleams. What makes the desert beautiful, said the little prince, is that somewhere it hides a well. I was astonished by a sudden understanding of the mysterious radiation of the sands. When I was a little boy, I lived in an old house, and legend told us that a treasure was buried there. To be sure, no one had ever known how to find it. Perhaps no one had ever even looked for it, but it had cast an enchantment over that house. My home was hiding a secret in the depths of its heart. Yes, I said to the little prince, the house, the stars, the desert, what gives them beauty is something that is invisible. I am glad, he said, that you agree with my fox. As the little prince dropped off to sleep, I took him in my arms and set out walking once more. I felt deeply moved and stirred. It seemed to me that I was carrying a very fragile treasure. It seemed to me even that there was nothing more fragile on all earth. In the moonlight, I looked at his pale forehead, his closed eyes, his locks of hair that trembled in the wind, and I said to myself, what I see here is nothing but a shell. What is most important is invisible. As his lips opened slightly with a suspicious half-smile, I said to myself again, what moves me so deeply about this little prince who is sleeping here is his loyalty to a flower. The image of a rose that shines through his whole being like the flame of a lamp, even when he's asleep. And I felt him to be more fragile still. I felt the need of protecting him, as if he himself were a flame that might be extinguished by a little puff of wind. And as I walked on, I found the well at daybreak. Men, said the little prince, set out on their way in express trains, but they do not know what they are looking for. Then they rush about and get excited and turn round and round. And he added, it's not worth the trouble. The well that we had come to was not like the wells of the Sahara. The wells of the Sahara were mere holes dug in the sand. This one was like a well in a village. But there was no village here, and I thought I must be dreaming. It is strange, I said to the little prince. Everything is ready for use, the pulley, the bucket, the rope. He laughed, touched the rope, and set the pulley to working, and the pulley moaned like an old weather vane which the wind has long since forgotten. "Do you hear?" said the little prince. "We have wakened the well, and it is singing." I did not want him to tire himself with the rope. "Leave it to me," I said. "It's too heavy for you." I hoisted the bucket slowly to the edge of the well and set it there, happy, tired as I was over my achievement. The song of the pulley was still in my ears, and I could see the sunlight shimmer through the still, trembling water. "I'm thirsty for this water," said the little prince. "Give me some of it to drink." And I understood what he had been looking for. I raised the bucket to his lips. He drank, his eyes closed. It was as sweet as some special festival treat. The water was indeed a different thing from ordinary nourishment. Its sweetness was born of the walk under the stars, the song of the pulley, the effort of my arms. It was good for the heart, like a present. When I was a little boy, the lights of the Christmas tree, the music of the midnight mass, the tenderness of smiling faces used to make up so the radiance of the gifts that I received. "The men where you live," said the little prince, "raise 5,000 roses in the same garden, and they do not find in it what they are looking for." "They do not find it," I replied. "And yet what they are looking for could be found in one single rose or in a little water." "Yes, that's true," I said. And the little prince added, "But the eyes are blind. One must look with the heart." I had drunk the water. I breathed easily. At sunrise the sand is the color of honey, and that honey color was making me happy too. What brought me then this sense of grief? "You must keep your promise," said the little prince softly, as he sat down beside me once more. "What promise?" "You know, a muzzle for my sheep. I'm responsible for this flower." I took my rough drafts of drawings out of my pocket. The little prince looked them over and laughed as he said, "Your baobabs, they look a little like cabbages." "Oh?" I had been so proud of my baobabs. "Your fox, his ears look a little like horns, and they're too long." He laughed again. "You are not fair, little prince," I said. "I don't know how to draw anything except boa constrictors from the outside and boa constrictors from the inside." "Oh, that will be all right," he said. "Children understand." So then I made a pencil sketch of a muzzle, and I gave it to him, and as I gave it to him, my heart was torn. "You have plans that I do not know about," I said. But he did not answer me. He said to me instead, "You know, my descent to Earth. Tomorrow will be its anniversary." Then after a silence he went on, "I came down very near here." And he flushed. And once again, without understanding why, I had a queer sense of sorrow. One question, however, occurred to me. "Then it was not by chance on the morning when I first met you a week ago that you were strolling along like that, all alone, 1,000 miles from any inhabited region. You were on your way back to the place where you landed." The prince flushed again, and I added with some hesitancy, "Perhaps it was because of the anniversary." The little prince flushed once more. He never answered questions, but when one flushes, does that not mean yes? The little prince, I said to him, I'm a little frightened, but he interrupted me. "Now you must work. You must return to your engine. I will be waiting for you here. Come back tomorrow evening." But I was not reassured. I remembered the fox. One runs the risk of weeping a little if one lets oneself be tamed. Beside the well, there was the ruin of an old stone. When I came back from my work the next evening, I saw from some distance away my little prince sitting on top of a wall with his feet dangling, and I heard him say, "Then you don't remember, this is not the exact spot." Another voice must have answered him, for he replied to it, "Yes, yes, it is the right day, but this is not the place." I continued my walk toward the wall. No time did I see or hear anyone. The little prince, however, replied once again, "Exactly. You will see where my track begins in the sand. You have nothing to do but wait for me there. I shall be there tonight." I was only 20 meters from the wall, and I still saw nothing. After a silence, the little prince spoke again. "You have reason. You're sure that will not make me suffer too long." I stopped in my tracks, my heart torn asunder, but I still did not understand. "Now go away," said the little prince. "I want to get down from the wall." I dropped my eyes then to the foot of the wall, and I leapt into the air. There before me, facing the little prince, was one of those yellow snakes that take just 30 seconds to bring your life to an end. Even as I was digging into my pocket to get out my revolver, I made a running step backward. But at the noise I made, the snake let himself flow easily across the sand like the dying spray of a fountain, and in no apparent hurry, disappeared with a light metallic sound among the stones. I reached the wall just in time to catch my little man in my arms. His face was white as snow. "What does this mean?" I demanded. "Why are you talking with snakes?" I had loosened the golden muffler that he always wore. I had moistened his temples and had given him some water to drink, and now I did not dare ask him any more questions. He looked at me very gravely and put his arms around my neck. I felt his heart beating like the heart of a dying bird shot with someone's rifle. "I'm glad that you found out what was the matter with your engine," he said. "Now you can go back home." "How do you know about that?" "I was just coming to tell him that my work had been successful beyond anything that I dared to hope." He made no answer to my question, but he added, "I, too, am going back home today." Then, sadly, "It's much farther. It's much more difficult." I clearly realized that something extraordinary was happening. I was holding him close in my arms as if he were a little child, and yet it seemed to me that he was rushing headlong toward an abyss from which I could do nothing to restrain him. His look was very serious, like someone lost, far away. "I have your sheep. I have the sheep's box, and I have the muzzle." And he gave me a sad smile. I waited a long time. I could see that he was reviving little by little. "Dear little man," I said to him, "you are afraid." He was afraid, but there was no doubt about that. But he laughed lightly. "I shall be much more afraid this evening." Once again I felt myself frozen by the sense of something irreparable. I knew that I could not bear the thought of never hearing that laughter any more. For me it was like a fresh spring of water in the desert. "Little man," I said to him, "I want to hear you laugh again." But he said to me, "Tonight it will be a year. My star then can be found right above the place where I came to earth a year ago." "Little man," I said, "tell me that it was only a bad dream, the affair of the snake and the meeting place and the star." But he did not answer my plea. He said to me instead, "The thing that is important is the thing that is not seen." "Yes, I know. It is just as it is with the flower. If you love a flower that lives on a star, it is sweet to look at the sky at night. All the stars are abloom with flowers." Yes, I know. "It is just as it is with the water. Because of the pulley and the rope, what you gave me to drink was like music. You remember how good it was." "Yes, I know." And at night you will look up at the stars where I live. Everything is so small I cannot show you where my star is to be found. It's better like that. My star will be just one of the stars for you, and so you will love to watch all the stars in the heavens, and they will all be your friends. And besides, I'm going to make you a present." He laughed again. "Ah, little prince, dear little prince, I love to hear that laughter. That is my present, just that. It will be just as it was when we drank the water." What are you trying to say?" "All men have the stars," he said, "but they are not the same things for different people. For some who are travelers, the stars are guides. For others, they are no more than little lights in the sky. For others who are scholars, they are problems. For my businessman, they were wealth. But all these stars are silent. You alone will have the stars as no one else has them." "What are you trying to say?" "In one of the stars I shall be living. In one of them I shall be laughing. And so it will be as if all the stars were laughing. When you look at the night sky, only you will have stars that can laugh." And he laughed again. "And when your sorrow is comforted, time soothes all sorrows. You will be content that you have known me. You will always be my friend. You will want to laugh with me, and you will sometimes open your window so that for that pleasure, and your friends will be properly astonished to see you laughing as you look up at the sky. Then you will say to them, 'Yes, the stars always make me laugh,' and they will think that you are crazy. It will be a very shabby trick that I have played on you." And he laughed again. "It will be as if in place of the stars I had given you a great number of little bells that knew how to laugh." And he laughed again. Then he quickly became serious. "Tonight, do not come," said the prince. "I shall not leave you," I said. "I shall look as if I was suffering. I shall look as if I were dying. But do not come to see that. It is not worth the trouble. I shall not leave you." But he was worried. "I tell you, it is also because of the snake. He must not bite you. Snakes, they are malicious creatures. This one might bite you just for fun." "I shall not leave you." But a thought came to reassure him. "It is true that they have no more poison for a second bite." That night I did not see him set out on his way. He got away from me without making a sound. When I succeeded in catching up with him, he was walking along with a quick and resolute step. He said to me merely, "Ah, you are there." And he took me by the hand. But he was still worrying. "It was wrong of you to come. You will suffer. I shall look as if I were dead, and that will not be true." I said nothing. "You understand, it is too far. I cannot carry this body with me. It is too heavy." I said nothing. "But it will be like an old abandoned shell. There is nothing sad about old shells." I said nothing. He was a little discouraged, but he made one more effort. "It will be very nice. I too shall look at the stars. All the stars will be wells with a rusty pulley, and all the stars will pour out fresh water for me to drink." I said nothing. "That will be so amusing. You will have 500 million little bells, and I shall have 500 million springs of water." And he too said nothing as he was crying. "Here it is. Let me go on by myself." And he sat down because he was afraid. Then he said again, "You know my flower? I'm responsible for her. And she's so weak, she's so naive. She has 4 thorns of no use at all to protect herself against all the world. I too sat down because I was not able to stand up any longer. There now, that is all. He still hesitated a little, and then got up. He took 1 step. I could not move. There was nothing but a flash of yellow close to his ankle. He remained motionless for an instant. He did not cry out. He fell as gently as a tree falls. There was not even any sound because of the sand. And now 6 years have already gone by. I have never told yet anyone this story. The companions who met me on my return were well content to see me alive. I was sad, but I told them, I'm tired. Now my sorrow is comforted a little, that is to say, not entirely, but I know that he did go back to his planet, because I did not find his body at daybreak. It was not such a heavy body, and at night I love to listen to the stars. It is like 500 million little bells. But there is one extraordinary thing. When I drew the muzzle for the little prince, I forgot to add the little leather strap to it. He will never have been able to fasten it on his sheep. So now I keep wondering what is happening on his planet. Perhaps the sheep has eaten the flower. At one time I say to myself, surely not. The little prince shuts his flower under her glass globe every night, and he watches over his sheep very carefully. Then I'm happy. And there is sweetness in the laughter of all the stars. But at another time I say to myself, at some moment or other, one is absent-minded, and that's enough. On some one evening he might forget the glass globe, or the sheep got out without making any noise in the night, and then the little bells are changed to tears. Here then is the great mystery. For you who also love the little prince, and for me, nothing in the universe can be the same if somewhere we do not know where, a sheep that we never saw, yes or no, has eaten a rose. Look up at the sky. Ask yourselves, is it yes or no? Has the sheep eaten the flower? And you will see how everything changes. And no grown-up will ever understand that this is a matter of so much importance. This is to me the loveliest and saddest landscape in the world. Oh, here I have to show it to you. It is the same as that on the preceding page, but I have drawn it again to impress it upon your memory. It is here that the little prince appeared on earth and disappeared. Look at it carefully, so that you will be sure to recognize it in case you travel someday to the African desert. And if you should come upon this spot, please do not hurry on. Wait for a time, exactly under the star. Then, if a little man appears who laughs, who has golden hair, and who refuses to answer questions, you will know who he is. If this should happen, please comfort me. Send me word that he has come back. And that, my friends, is the Little Prince. Thanks. We could have just paused and then read something else, but it was just so, like, once you get into that end part, it's too much. So I'm going to unmute everybody and see if there's anything that anyone wants to say before we go, either about the poetry or about Lewis Hyde's Dirty Trickster or about the Little Prince. You can just say it if you have something to say.
What was the name of the poet?
The poet is Agha, Agha, Shahid Ali.
He was a lovely man. I met him at a poetry reading in Seattle when I first moved up here, so I guess it would have been like 97, 98. And he just was like one of those super cultured, old fashioned people. And he died probably about 15 years ago of a brain tumor a while ago. But
Mm.
he was a wonderful poet. And I still hear his voice in my head when you were reading those.
Mm. Wonderful. There is more poetry by him, and so far as I can tell, it's all good.
Yeah.
So next week I'll read some more of it, and then we'll continue with the Dirty Trickster, because what then happens, and does Mawu ever come back?
That bitch. Mom was such a bitch.
So yeah, she would just that's such a fascinating thing, because she could have solved the whole problem by just admitting that they were one, but she couldn't do that, and so she had to exit herself from the world. So I love you all. Thank you for being here and for letting me read to you. It's strangely calming for me to do this as well. So I really appreciate that you come and that you are witness, and that hopefully it provides something lovely for you as well. So with that, we can just say goodbye.
Bye, Sage. See you
Okay,
later. Bye.
bye.